What if I told you the more you doubt your own intelligence, the higher your IQ probably is? Not as a compliment, not as motivation, as a pattern that researchers have documented for decades and almost nobody talks about openly. The people who walk into a room convinced they're the smartest one there, they rarely are. But the ones sitting quietly in the back, wondering if they're missing something, questioning their own conclusions, feeling slightly out of place in conversations that seem too simple, and somehow still feeling lost. Those are almost always the ones with the most going on upstairs. And here's what makes this uncomfortable. If you clicked on this video, there's already something that tells me about you. You didn't scroll past a question about intelligence, you stopped, and that specific pull, that need to understand something deeper about how your own mind works, that's not random curiosity. That's a pattern. And by the end of this video, you're going to recognize it in yourself in a way you probably never have before. There's a particular kind of loneliness that has no name. It's not the loneliness of being alone in a room. It's the loneliness of being in a room full of people, talking, laughing, connecting, and feeling like you're watching it all through glass. You can see them, they can't really see you. And the worst part? You've stopped expecting them to. Most conversations about high intelligence focus on the gifts, the fast thinking, the problem solving, the potential. But nobody talks about what it actually feels like to live inside a mind that never stops, a mind that finds patterns in everything, a mind that asks a second question before most people finish answering the first. That's not a superpower. Most days, it's a slow kind of exhaustion. Here's what actually happens at the neurological level. And I'll keep this simple. High IQ brains don't just process information faster, they process more of it simultaneously. They notice incongruences. They catch what doesn't fit. This means you're constantly running a background scan on every conversation, every situation, every relationship, looking for what's real beneath what's being performed. And you find things people aren't saying, motivations they haven't admitted to themselves, cracks in the story everyone else just accepted. That sounds useful. It is, sometimes. But it also means you can never fully relax into a moment. You can't just watch the movie. You're analyzing the cinematography. You can't just enjoy the dinner. You're noticing the tension between two people across the table that nobody else has caught yet. You are permanently, involuntarily behind the curtain, and once you're back there, you can't pretend the curtain isn't there. Psychologist Lita Hollingworth studied profoundly gifted individuals in the early 20th century and found something that didn't fit the popular narrative. She called it the burden of originality. The higher the intelligence, the harder it becomes to find social peers. Not because highly intelligent people are arrogant, though some are, but because genuine intellectual connection requires a specific kind of synchrony. And that synchrony is statistically rare. So what do? You adapt. You code switch constantly, translating yourself into something digestible for every new room you enter. You learn to hold back the third and fourth layer of what you're actually thinking because you've seen the look people get when you don't. That look that isn't quite discomfort and isn't quite admiration. It's something closer to distance. And distance, after enough repetitions, becomes the default setting between you and almost everyone you know. What nobody warns you about is that this adaptation has a cost. When you spend years making yourself smaller to fit, you start losing the thread of who you actually are. The self that wasn't performing. The self that had real questions, real reactions, real hunger. You get so good at adjusting that one day you realize you don't know what you actually want because you've spent so long managing what everyone else needs you to be. And then comes the frustration, not the loud kind. The quiet, grinding frustration of watching decisions get made around you that you could see were wrong 3 steps ago. Of explaining something clearly and watching it get misunderstood anyway. Of caring deeply about precision in a world that rewards confidence over accuracy. That frustration turns inward eventually. It becomes self-doubt wrapped in a strange paradox. You're aware enough to know you see things clearly, and isolated enough to wonder if maybe you're just wrong about everything. Left unaddressed, this builds into something heavier, Studies on intellectually gifted adults consistently find higher rates of existential anxiety, not clinical anxiety necessarily, but a kind of persistent unease about meaning, about connection, about whether any of it actually adds up to something. When your mind is built to find inconsistencies, you find them everywhere, including in the stories we tell ourselves about why any of this matters. So, what do you actually do with this? There's a practice I call depth mapping. It's not therapy, it's not journaling. It's a deliberate habit of identifying, once a week, one thought you've been performing versus one thought you've been hiding. Just one. The one you translated into something softer before you said it out loud. The one you kept because you knew the room couldn't hold it. You write it down, the real version. Not for anyone else, just to prove to yourself it exists. Over time, depth mapping does something quiet but significant. It keeps a record of the self that didn't get edited. It becomes evidence that you're still there, underneath all the adapting. And when you find other people, even one or two, who can hold the unedited version, that record becomes the foundation of something real instead of something managed. You were never too much. You were just in the wrong rooms. The mind that exhausts you is also the one that sees things worth seeing. The question is whether you're willing to stop shrinking it for people who were never going to understand it anyway. Your mind just got a little darker, and that's a good thing. If this hit different, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss what's coming. And if you're not done yet, I recommend watching these two videos next. They will keep you up all night.